each one of you could probably talk a little bit about the business that you are in, about your organization, and what has COVID done from the perspective of being a challenge or an opportunity, and how have been some of the reactions coming out from your customers, vendors, employees?
When we talk digital, people are like, okay, digitally, is it possible to work? Now, today, when you know this virus is going to be there for 3, 4, 5 years, at some point of time, many of us will actually get it, as Ritu rightly mentioned. How prepared are we in terms of technology, how tech savvy we are? Because going forward for next 6 months, 8 months at least, all your meetings with your clients and customers may happen digitally. So those are the opportunities that we are looking at. Yeah? So that's for my thing.
Thank you so much. I think we will use a little bit of the time here on to just, for everyone, like Bijender rightly summed up some of the challenges, overviews of his business. I think we are looking at doing that with all our speakers. I'll move on to you, Debjani. Tell us about what's going on at your end.
Okay, hi everyone, good morning. So I am from Refractories. Refractories, manufacture bricks which are lined in the blast furnaces of steel plants. That's major. We also have cement as customer, glass, power, but steel is, of course, our largest share of customers, and the manufacturing is mainly towards steel industry. So when this lockdown started, of course, nobody was prepared. It was an unprecedented situation that we all witnessed. There was no predefined strategy. We were suddenly left out of gear. So there was instant lockdown which got announced. And, if you know, with manufacturing units, you just can't lock down, at the click of it. So it was a challenging task to ensure that plants are locked down, ensure that the safety of, we have housing societies around the manufacturing units, so ensuring safety of our people, ensuring that the plant, is functioning, whatever maintenance and preventive maintenance activities that continue. That was a key challenge. There were, about around 50 trucks which were stranded with material across India, which were, getting dispatched. So that was another challenge. Offices also, though we started work from home a little ahead, around the 13th, 14th March itself, we started. However, again, as I said, in India, especially with Indian organizations, work from home is not a culture which we are very used to. So adopting to that new culture of working from home, adjusting to the timelines and ensuring engagement of all our people, those were some of the key challenges which we faced during this time.
Thanks so much. One second. Yeah, am I audible? Okay. Okay, now moving on to you, Poornima. Let's hear from you about a little bit about your organization, as well as some of the opportunities and challenges that you have witnessed.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you, TeamLease team, for the opportunity. Never let a crisis go waste. So we don't know, like, this good or bad, but definitely, I think there's a wonderful opportunity for us to bounce back. I think in our generation, at least for us, I think this is the first time I'm seeing something like this. Perhaps it can be the last time, for this generation to see of this tremendous effect. Hello, everyone. My name is Poornima. I lead the HR for Rapido. Rapido is the online bike taxi aggregator based out of Bangalore and has a presence in 100 cities. So this is a new age startup in HSR layout in Bangalore, and it's just 5 years old. So for us, the main revenue, of course, is the bike taxi. I mean, all of you know the objective or the purpose for us, for our leaders at Rapido, was to create an impact in the society to address the commute issue. So our company is around, we have around like 300 plus online, full-time employees plus another 700 to 800 people on contract. So for us, then how Rapido works is like we have 15 lakh registered drivers. We don't call them as drivers, we call them as captains. So these captains are spread across India. So some are work part-time and some work full-time with us. So the Rapido doesn't provide any vehicle, doesn't own any fleet of vehicles. It's just that we run the show. Like I'm sure, I think some of you might be using. So we have a Rapido app where we were doing, like when this just Jan, Feb, we were hitting almost like 3.5 to 4 lakhs rides per day. And our plan was to hit 1 million, that is 10 lakhs rides by end June. So this is where we were during this, in Feb, March. This is where we were. In terms of talent agenda, in terms of, so our performance review process had started. So the self-evaluation process was in progress. Okay, then being a startup, lots of policies, process, everything was put in place. And as far as the other areas of HR is concerned, in terms of digitization, like we had already had all these HR system, everything like, had a HRIS system in place. And so we were moving towards the journey of like, digitalizing the entire thing. And in terms of hiring, being a startup again, technology hiring was its full peak, total heightened focus on that. So come this and then, yes, it was like a talent driven market until March. Like, people used to come with 3 to 4 offers in hand and demand exorbitant pay hikes. Or jump with this thing, but then now suddenly, total shift. So opportunity for us, mainly for us, because the 15 lakh registered captains. So for them, like that was a big challenge. So what do we do? Because for some of them, this is the only, income for them. Okay, for some of the drivers. Then secondly, with respect to our team that works in the customer service, in the contact center. So these people are not given a laptop, even they are on third-party payroll. So how do we ensure that they work, or how do we ensure the business continuity? Okay, so the 3 areas that I focused or in co-creating this, blended approach was with respect to the safety of the employees, safety and well-being. Then second is in terms of the business continuity, and the third was with respect to the organizational performance. So good, good amount of challenge and lots of opportunities. So I will definitely talk about it.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Sugandha, over to you. I mean, what's your sense? What's been happening at your end?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. This is Sugandha, Taneja. I come from Indoschottle Auto Parts, which is part of a big Swiss multinational group, SFS. We have around 10,000 employees across the globe. So we basically manufacture precision engineered components for auto and industrial applications for customers in India and abroad. So just to give you a glimpse of basically the auto sector. So as I think most of you might be aware that basically last year was one of the worst slowdowns for us as a sector in almost a decade. So what had happened is last year there was a huge pressure on the business. There were layoffs in the industry per se. And therefore, just in, I think, early part of this year, January, February, March is when we actually saw the business going up a bit. So we could see this, the dark tunnel coming to an end. But that is when this COVID crisis came in. And so this is almost like a double blow for us, because coming from, a year of bad business and then coming and facing this situation where there's a lot of uncertainty, of course, the whole industry is severely impacted. Then what is unique about the auto industry also is the fact that there's a lot of dependence on the entire supplier ecosystem. So if you would be aware, we have the OEMs or who have basically rely on the tier 1 suppliers, who have the T2 suppliers, and so on. So basically what happens is that even when we talked about restarting of operations or planning to restart, etc., a lot of work goes into actually ensuring that basically the ecosystem is also getting geared up to deliver the required business. So that's one important element of understanding how the auto sector works. The third part of it, as all of you might be aware in terms of the industrial trends, is the electrification, which is getting talked about. So basically, this industry is is strategizing on how to deal with the long-term impact, or medium-term impact, I would say, of the entire change in technology. So that was something which was occupying the business leadership, and suddenly we had this COVID crisis coming in and hitting us. So therefore, a lot of work right now is going on into taking care of what is going to happen in the immediate year. So basically, like what Poornima is saying, we are dependent on our customers. So the plans which are coming or the forecast which they are giving, which also they are very clearly saying is going to be uncertain, because they would need to keep revising it. So there's a lot of dynamics around this situation, and then managing the cash flow and the liquidity of the businesses, ensuring that we have the suppliers whom we are supporting, and therefore need to be also their business needs to be sustained, and of course taking care of our employees and other stakeholders is what we are grappling with. So I'll talk about the specifics when we go to the next question, but I just wanted to give you an industry overview.
Okay, so I think given that the topic of today's discussion is putting India back to work and how do we achieve that, I think it's important to directly get into that bit. And hence, Bijender, how are you now planning to get back to work? How is your business looking at it? And what should anybody in your sector, what should they be looking out to kind of do this? Like all of us want our revenues to kick in, but we also want our employees to be safe, and we have to be compliant with the norms that are being recommended and suggested. So what's your plan? What are the specific insights you think that people in today's audience can go back and mull over and factor in their plans of putting their workforce back into work?
So Ritu, for us, and being a pharma company, being a healthcare organization, it all starts from the safety of the employee, which I'm sure would be the case with most of the organizations. So the first thing that we have done, in terms of resumption of work, the moment there was this COVID outbreak, there is a team that we created within the organization, which is called COVID Task Force. So apart from being the director for the HR function, I also head the COVID task force for the country. The reason we did this is because of two things. One, in many of these pandemics, despite being in healthcare, people are not really aware about what is happening. So every week there is one town hall that we do for our employees, where there is a quick 5 to 10 minute update from the managing director in terms of how is Corona looking globally, Europe, US, and then he spends some time on India. This is where the pandemic is. So one is creating the awareness for the employee, because half of the people do wrong things because they are not aware of what is happening. That's point number one. Point number two, there is an update to the leadership team every day which happens. So apart from these two things, how are we looking at coming back to work? One is we have ensured that each and every employee in the organization has the basic necessity. What is the basic necessity in COVID? An Arogya Setu app on your phone. You should be aware, people around you in your vicinity, 500 meters, 1 kilometer, because that is an actual realization. When you see on your phone, 500 meters, 3 people positive, trust me, you're then more responsible for yourself, for your family. That's one. Second thing is ensuring that our people adhere to the guidelines. So, we do not allow under any circumstance, though you have today regions categorized as orange and green also, we have not started the work. We are focusing on, keeping the employees engaged, sharpening their skills. We have ensured that each and employee has the basic necessities. So company has provided them, the N95 mask, the sanitizer, right level of education. We are also taking this opportunity because tomorrow when an employee has to come back to work, Ritu, more than the employee, the family has to be convinced that the individual can go out, and not get infected and create health issues for himself or for the family. So the second town hall that we do every week, the families are also invited, and we normally keep an offbeat topic. So we had somebody from army who spoke to us. We had somebody who had done, being a defense person, his first triathlon. because we also want to keep topics which are away. So in this way, we are building up the confidence of the employees that this is the new normal. So that's the starting point. At the same time, we are keeping our employees well informed of what is happening. Third thing, providing the safety for the employees, the support for the employees. And every single day through our line managers, there is a call just to keep a track of, if any employee or a family member or a close relative or a next door neighbor has he reported a positive. So that is something which we update to our company as well if it is impacting the employee or the family member. So right now focus is three things. One, building the confidence of the employee that this is the new normal and this is the latest information. Second, making our employees secure. And third, at the same time, we are closely monitoring the situation from a trade perspective, supply chain perspective, because our clients are doctors, and you know the situation of hospitals today, right? So we are monitoring on that front as well. And depending on what is the guidance that comes on 17th or 18th, we will take an appropriate call of resuming work, because 90% of my people are going into walk into the hospitals, and today walking into a hospital may be a bigger risk than actually walking anywhere else, So that's how we are planning of resumption of the services.
Thank you so very much. I would actually urge the audiences that if you have questions that you would want to ask the panelists, please start writing in. You must be seeing the Q&A tab. So please start putting your questions in there, and right towards the end, we will start taking those questions up. Debjani, on to you. How are you planning to get your workforce back to work? So what are your, you could unmute yourself, Debjani. What are the plans that you have which can help others, again, like I said, emulate, learn, and
Right.
for their, because at the moment, what I sense is that everybody is trying to do something in utter darkness. I don't think people have any kind of roadmap that they can follow. Yes, there are speculations. There's a lot of speculation. So if all of you could throw some light on what they can do or what you are doing for your business, I'm sure others can learn.
Yeah, sure. So, exactly on the roadmap, I will just pick up that point from you. So, initially, when we had this lockdown, the first thing that we did as an organization was creating a Dalmia support, system. So there were helpline numbers 24/7 available. We had a central SPOC. We had regional teams formed. And we also provided doctor on-call services, because there were some people with continued medical issues and they might reach out to us. There were people stuck at different points in the country. Our people are all located across sites, customer sites, besides the plants. So we created the Dalmia support helpline, which is a 24/7 helpline for all our talents, and not just to address their issues which they are facing of like getting stuck or something, but also to provide mental support. So if somebody is not well, not feeling very in a panic situation, so that was also one objective. Apart from that, now, as I said, I'll take that clue from the roadmap. So definitely, we also evolved. As I said, there was no predefined strategy for addressing such a pandemic. However, through our experience now of this around 1.5 months, so we have also evolved. So now when we started operations, just like Bijender said, we also created a task force. We have a central task force and we have task force across all our manufacturing units. So we have defined the new normal in three phases or three sub-points: restart, reshape, reimagine. So the task force team actually got in together to create a SOP for this, for implementing this new normal. So a standard operating procedure was created, of course, by the task force for the entire organization, covering plants, covering offices, covering our people at the sites. So this entire document has been prepared, keeping everything in view, keeping all the perspectives, all the learnings that we have got until now from the situation. So this is a document which was prepared, circulated, We had webinars conducted. The task force conducted such kind of webinars with the plant teams, with our people, with different work groups, and trying to align them with the new normal. Okay, so that was one of the key activities. We have focused on holistic wellness. We have conducted several sessions like on yoga, sessions on mental health. We conducted leadership talk sessions. We are regularly conducting Gita discourse for people to enable them to manage change or get, adopt to change. So in the initial period, we also we also conducted awareness sessions. So our manufacturing units also have a health center. So doctors there conducted virtual, sessions on awareness, on safety, on how to go about it. So we were focusing on physical health, on safety measures, and also on aligning ourselves towards the the mental part of it. The mind, how to broaden your mind and accept this change. The initial package, and that has brought results. As an organization today, we are much prepared. Even when, as I said, our plants have all started operating with the guidelines, whichever has been set up. But sanitization, social distancing, or PPEs, monitoring of workers who are coming in, so attendance, canteen facilities, so everything. So this was a very structured approach that we have taken to restart operations, and we ensured that there is no decentralization or decentralized decisions alone. So everything was weaved in together as part of the entire organization. So local
Nice.
Dynamics were kept in view, but we weaved in everything to be a part of the entire organization.
Perfect. Thank you so much. As I'm listening in, of course, there are many questions playing in my mind, but I'm holding on to the temptation of interjecting you guys at this point.
Right.
Poornima, what about you? What yours is an organization where, besides your tech teams,
Yes.
most of your resources are outbound in nature. How are you revitalizing that side of the business? How are you getting them to come back and continue doing, your captains, for example? What are you doing to essentially activate? I honestly think your business has a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. Yes.
And given that how consumer minds are likely to change,
Sure.
and how they will make consumption decisions. But so what's going on at your end? Because you have a huge opportunity, yet a vulnerability.
Absolutely correct.
And
Yeah.
hence, how are you balancing the two?
Yeah. So we displayed resilient leadership, the mind shift, from respond to recover, from this unpredictable situation to quote unquote interim normal. Okay, from inward thinking to market facing. So our the approach was like, okay, there is a crisis. So how do I from crisis management to program management, from contingency planning to scenario planning, from reacting to reinventing. So this is what we displayed tremendous resilience, and we focused on psychological safety. See, as HR, we all know, right? I'm sure my co-panelists would agree. Earlier, when you used to talk about safety from HR parlance, safety and well-being of employees, it used to be restricted. All of us, the first thing comes to our mind is like, oh yeah, the grievance handling, there is harassment, committee in place, all those people are safe and secure. Women employees are sent back home by 8 o'clock or 8 in the night. Otherwise, organized for transportation. So our thoughts were, at least I know most of our thoughts were limited to until then. We never thought about this pandemic kind of a situation where we had to, so the psychological safety is one, the buzzword which I also hear a lot these days. So that is where we focused on. And to answer your question specifically, so the captains, what did we do? What we did for them? We came up with something called, because most of them, certain captains who in the North India and all, for them this is the only income. Hardly 15 or 20,000 per month. So immediately we initiated something called fundraiser. Okay, so it was a voluntary contribution. So our target is to raise 2.5 crores. So we thought we will raise funds, and all those who are really, really in trouble, we will donate them. So already we have collected almost 45 lakhs. Like yesterday I was talking to our team, So that is one thing which we have done in order to help our captains, because we have, as I mentioned, 15 lakh registered captains. We also are, people whoever wants to volunteer ration. So we have collected that and we will be distributing that also. We are doing that already. So this is what we've done. So apart from, as far as people are concerned, I think many companies have done this, and we also did in terms of engaging them and enhanced communication. That is, for example, we used to have once in a quarter all hands meeting. It became once in a month, all hands meeting. This, our leadership team, that is the CEO and the other two founders, are talking to the team every week, every Friday or Saturday. So there's an enhanced engagement, enhanced communication. So not only that, even the respective managers, the business heads are asked to talk to their, the team regularly. So basically, we are, like, as HR, I am coaching the leaders to be empathetic, to display emotional capability, to dip in the bud any negativity, and to address all anxiety and all that, So we are like taking all precautions. Of course, we also have these, health talks, games, quiz. People, say their family members saying hello to the team, showing their pets. All this is, going on. So apart from this, what we did, the innovation that came out of this, as you rightly said, the huge challenge, but at the same time, opportunity. So how am I keeping my contract staff, the customer service folks, engaged? So Rapido launched Rapido Box. Okay, so we were only ferrying people. So just 3 days ago, we launched Rapido Box. This is P2P, person to person. So what it means is, supposing you or anyone, we have launched right now in 3 cities, Bangalore, Kolkata, and Delhi. So there are people, you want like some groceries to be picked from some center, or medicines or anything. Like, I want to send some item to you. So anything, so there is a that. So we have launched this P2P. So this is a big innovation that came out. And again, our people are engaged, So 30% of our staff are already, of course, taken all hygiene measures in terms of sanitization and all that. So people are so very critical staff are going to office, but the rest of them are all operating from home. So it has been working well. So I would say these are the two major things, which came out. Rapido Boxes thing, I don't think so. If had not for this pandemic, you would have continued ferrying, the people, the bike taxi, the last mile connectivity. And of course, we also do B2B with Swiggy and Eat Fit and all that. So this was the innovation that came out. So, I think, we really feel very proud and happy about it. Yes. And that's why slowly now, people are also very, very happy about it. The employees, because, so what I would like to say is, see that resilience, right? During adversity, everyone, even for me, some of them, just yesterday, someone called me and said, "Oh, how about your organization? Do you think, will there be any layoffs? What about you?" I said, "No, nothing." I was like trying to be very positive, but still some of them say, "Oh no, who knows, after 2 months you might get laid off." So, but still I think maintaining that positivity and pushing back and telling them, "Hey, no, so what? So if it happens also, fine. There's always an opportunity, So I think the thing is to be positive, and there are definitely opportunities for all of us, So to look around and see how we can grab that opportunity. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. Just for the benefit of all those who are logging in, I think at our end, at TeamLease end, what we have been doing is we've been speaking to experts like you see in the panel today, and we are coming out with SOP documents which are relevant, which can be used. Of course, every organization will have its own nuances, but we have picked few sectors. Unfortunately, we cannot probably do it for all sectors, but few sectors which have a large number of need for a large number of resources, which can't work from home essentially, but has to show up to workplaces. What are some of the best practices and do's and don'ts that they can follow? So at any point, if any one of you wants to take a look at it, please do reach out to us. We are more than happy to share that with you. We've tried to plug in some of the insights that we've got from other countries as well into those. Of course, it's a work in progress document. It will get fine-tuned and improved as we actually see things happening once the lockdown gets removed. So just to give you that context. Yes, Sugandha, on to you now. What are you doing to get people back to work?
Yeah. So basically, I'll talk about 3 different aspects. So one is on the business side. So on the business, like we have the COVID escalation committee, which is at the senior management level, what we did is we had task forces from the business resumption point of view. So we actually had 5 of them. So one focused on the customers, because we have to align our plans with theirs, the plant management, vendors, logistics, because logistics has been a huge challenge during the lockdown period, and the personal and finance task force. So just to give a glimpse from the personal task force, the 3 main topics for us. One was on the manpower availability. I'm sure as HR people, all of you would have had your own challenges. So in one of the plants in Karnataka, where we kind of opened, around early April, because we were in the aerospace sector where we got a permission, etc. There we faced a huge challenge in terms of getting people to just come to work. Not because they had gone somewhere, out to their native villages and all, but because of the psychological fear aspect, saying that if I go out of my house, then my family is worried, my neighbors are worried, my village people are worried. So here we actually had to interact not only with the employees, their families, but even the gram panchayats, just to convince them that we are taking all precautions, to prepare videos and sending that communication out. So for us, at a ground level, our plants being located in rural areas, this has been one of the challenges. And therefore, what we actually did on the manpower availability is we actually contacted, so the HR team made personal phone calls to each of the employees, our permanent associates and contractual associates, just to check with them how they are, the well-being of their families, where they are located currently, if they're facing any challenges, and to keep them abreast of what is happening. Then I think from a very practical aspect, there was a lot of time as HR folks that we spent on understanding what is happening in terms of the government guidelines, the legal permissions, basically unraveling that part, which is, I think, the right word, because there was a lot of flip and flop happening in terms of permission being given one day, and after 2 days the scenario changed. So keeping abreast of all of that in terms of the implications, in terms of the compensation, what is the government saying, figuring out what is the impact that we would like to have in terms of the salaries going forward, etc. So that was one key aspect. And then, of course, the COVID readiness. So even while we were managing things from home, but ensuring that our plants are ready to get in the workforce, making the required availability of masks, sanitizers, disinfectants, and so on, making physical changes on the shop floor, because from a manufacturing perspective, there's not possible everywhere to maintain distancing. So how can we make that? So working with the plant teams on that. So that was basically primarily, so on the business side, we are working on different scenarios, the best case, worst case, realistic, calibrating our plan. So that's something which is a dynamic situation. On the psychological aspect, we are, like all companies, we had a lot of engagement sessions using the online platforms. One unique thing again was, getting all our associates used to Zoom. So, basically training them on how to actually log into, Zoom and attend the town hall meetings, and be aware of what is the objectives of the company and what are we planning. So doing that, having union meetings, I think on Zoom was again a novel experience for us. And that's something that we have told the union committee, this is going to be ongoing, because we are not sure when everybody will be there. So having discussions and consultations with them, keeping them informed, was something that we have been doing. We actually did the entire training and development kind of an initiative, where we kind of identified programs for everybody and sent it out, saying that these are the webinars, these are the courses, these are the the links that you should do and report back to us. And also a lot of collaborative working. So we picked up a lot of developmental projects which were lying on the back burner because of the routine issues. So there we picked up, whether it is on the cost optimization or working on certain innovative things. So those are the kind of things that we did. So psychologically, I think engaging them, now that we have actually resumed our operations since last week, the most important thing for me and my team is to actually be there, physically present on the shop floor. So when all the associates enter, I am there at the gate, seeing them, whether all the precautions are being maintained, making rounds in all the plants, ensuring that, just get them together for 5 minutes, repeat all the training, things about COVID precautions to be taken, understand if they're facing any difficulties or apprehensions, and then kind of, responding to it there and then, rather than letting it go into the kind of the rumor mill. So I think the direct face-to-face interaction is one big important thing that as HR folks we cannot substitute it with anything else. So that's on the psychological aspect. The third thing is on the social aspect. So while all this is preoccupying our business, our employees, etc., we did not forget the social part of it. We actually through the MCCI, which is an industry body, we actually made donations. Not only that, we also have distributed. We started distributing food to migrant labor. Around 3 weeks back, and we involved our employees in that, and that's something which is still ongoing. And that was, I think, an important part of our community outreach program. So yeah, these are some of the things that we have been doing.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. I have a follow-up question for you, Sugandha. And I mean, very interesting. The union meeting on Zooms is definitely fascinating. And because for the longest time, I guess we believe unions, I mean, again, I'm not generalizing, but many unions have been apprehensive about technology, about how it can impact them or impact employees adversely. But I guess situations like this kind of exposes the reality, right? Where you realize that technology is like oxygen. You can't do without it in today's life. One question I have, it's a follow-up question, I know, but I didn't want to risk forgetting it. A lot of people actually believe that thanks to COVID, where people are apprehensive of using public transport, it can lead to spike in sales of two-wheelers and four-wheelers. Have you picked that up? Because I've picked that up from a few conversations. Is it what you guys think might happen?
The industry, so as Auto Ancillary, we are part of ACMA, which is the industry body, and there have been a lot of discussions, and also the OEMs, which are we remain connected with them as well. They are hoping for something like this to happen because people will be discouraged from using public transport. But at the same time, the reality is also that purchase of vehicles remains a discretionary expense. So what they're anticipating actually is that the mix of models, which was now moving towards the SUV and the bigger vehicles, will now be again focused on the hatchbacks and the smaller vehicles, and people would be curtailing down the expenditure that they make on these, on the personal this thing, and also postponement of the upgradation of the models that they have. So there's a lot of again, the forecasting, because I was part of the Maruti Suzuki kind of session just a couple of days back, and they were talking about that whatever their marketing forecast was before COVID, they would have to totally rehash that. They would again need to have an understanding of what is the market talking about now, and then again gear up what are the new models they're planning to launch, the product design, etc., etc. So yes, there's a lot of flux happening because of this particular situation. But yes, what you're saying, this is going to be a likely trend to happen. Yes.
Nice. That's going to be some light at the end of the tunnel for the auto segment, I guess. Good. One question which I now going to ask each one of you, that essentially it's a you can call it my last round of questions that I will come to all of you with. I wanted to understand that if you think that after, when people start getting back to work, can you, from your perspective, share with us that 3 things, maybe, or whatever count that you want to choose, which will permanently get changed from how it was in the past? Permanently, in the sense, these are things which you never did before. It could be from your individual organization perspective or in general, it doesn't matter. So any 3 things or any workplace behavior, trend, phenomena, anything, which you think we should all make peace with, that this is going to happen, apart from the much talked about work from home, of course. Bijender, you want to take a shot at it first?
Sure. I think 2 or 3 things, irrespective of what industry we come from, which will surely change going forward. One is, till now everybody has been teaching us about social distancing and all, right? I think that will become a way of life. When we were told, about 45 days back, stay away, don't touch, and all those things and everything, we were like, okay, this infection is there. hence for some time it's not going to be there, right? So going forward, will people practice it as a part of life, in a culture like ours? Yes, that's one big change which is going to happen. Second thing which will become a part of life is the overall belief that was lacking in a country like ours to a large extent was in terms of making the use of digital platforms. That's something which is significantly going to go up. It's going to go up in our workplace. It's also going to go up in terms of the way our clients were perceiving it. For example, if you were to contact, say, just as an example, a doctor digitally, many times the belief that we had or even the doctor had was, can we have a quick face-to-face meeting? That's going to change. Just imagine, what Sugandha said. They are in touch with the union digitally, right? So that's another place which is going to change. The third thing is, which is also going to change is a little bit difficult to accept for all of us, but which will definitely change is, the survival of fittest, which will come across industries. So with all the changes, till March end, Ritu, our unemployment rate was 7%. In end of April, it is 24.85%, right? So you will also see changes in the organization, in the structure, very productivity driven. Will you see job losses going forward? Yes. We may say, we'll have best of practices, this, that. And I'm not speaking on behalf of my organization or my industry. I'm speaking in general. So these three things, social distancing, people will start practicing it a lot more. Digital, people will start leveraging it. Seeing people around you go, changes in the organization, org structures, will that become a reality? And will people start, accepting it more and discussing it less? Yes. So today, when somebody goes in the organization or in any other industry, we start talking, oh God, this is bad. 6 months from now, 3 months from now, Ritu, people would be, in the current scenario, they may not have a role or a responsibility. That's okay. So these three things come to my mind.
Okay, now can I request Debjani, what do you think? What's going to permanently change in our lives, in professional lives? We can't hear you, Debjani. Hello? Yeah, we can't still hear you. Debjani, we'll come back to you till your audio comes back. Poornima, you want to take that up? Then we'll come back to Debjani again once her audio is fixed.
Okay, I think some of the things what Bijender said, definitely those are the things even I too had in mind and people are talking about, which is permanently going to change, right? In terms of social distancing, org structure and all that. So much to the, I think the lot more focus would be more on efficiency, productivity. Okay, so definitely most of the organization, almost everyone, much to the displeasure of all of us, it would be the lean structure. Okay, less and less people, less and less of real estate. Okay, so how do we, the talent management? So now how do I manage talent? Okay, I know I'm taking a little off from your question of, I mean, these are the permanent changes that's going to happen. Okay, but then what, so I would say, I mean, my perspective, this is like, right now we say, oh, people are very scared, they will not leave jobs and all that stuff. But I feel we should be thinking ahead, 6 months or 1 year ahead of like what we should be doing. Okay, we should be prepared, something, come up with some disruptive, some new ways of working. For example, like I should be thinking as a HR leader, I know my talent is there, but how do I refence them? Ensure that my critical talent stays. Because you never know, after 6 months or 1 year, suddenly, I mean, all of us are saying, oh, 2 years, life is going to be like this. There won't be, economy is very bad as it is. India's economy was bad and it's going to become, there are so many talks and so many news, right, around the world and especially in India also. but you never know. So we have to be proactive. We have to be prepared. So we have to be, I as a HR leader should coach my business leaders, or as a business leader, I mean, I have to wear the hat of the business leader and think that what is the innovation we can bring in, what my competitors or others are not already thinking. So when things are fine in the next 6 months or 1 year, so we should be the first one to, should be out of the block and say, hey, here we are, this is a product. So essentially, so what I'm trying to say is, like, I think all these challenges are there. So many things are going to change, and we know there will be, less and less of people in the organization, and it's going to be a heightened focus on performance everywhere. Okay, definitely. So, but then how do I, as a HR leader, manage talent, refence my critical talent, and see that they don't push off maybe 6 months or 1 year from now. That is one thing. And the other thing is, I was listening to one more webinar where someone mentioned about, I have to quickly give this example. So there's Harley Davidson, this company, they had some rally or some event, where they brought in all their customers. So I believe the CNP head was asked to visit that event. And so there were a lot of customers, and so one of them was, one chap was, talking to her and telling, hey, this is not working good. I think you should be doing this, that, and all that stuff. So he doesn't care. For him, it is the representative is there from this Harley Davidson. I mean, he doesn't know that she's an HR or whatever, right? So she came back, and when she was devising her total rewards philosophy, so some of these things she input and she discussed, and there was some, the way she devised or revised the CNB philosophy was different. So what I'm again trying to say is, as HR leaders, we should be, as business leaders, not only take care of internal customers, but also be there with your technology team or your customer service team, understand what the customer needs are, pain points are, and then correlate that to come back internally and, work on that. So the way HR works itself is going to change, the way we should be thinking. I mean, go beyond all this, of all your, lot of strategic things or day-to-day things, what we are doing. Of course, everybody is, doing this automation and digital transformation, having this chatbot and all, but much, much beyond that. And as a business leader, how you can help the organization, to be productive. I mean, we have to help the organization to win, create a winning organization in the marketplace. So that's how I would like to say.
Interesting. You're essentially talking about how the role of HR also needs to transform and beyond what we have always believed HR to be. Thank you so much. Debjani, were you able to fix your audio problem?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks. So over to you now.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay, good. Yeah, so actually, of course, I mean, a lot have already been said, but even I too think, besides digital transformation, which has, become normal now, and, initially when we did digital, virtual mediums for interactions, for meetings, for trainings, it was more to engage people during lockdown. But now it is going to be the new way, a new normal, as we are talking about. And we have done customer interactions, we are doing customer negotiations, we are conducting expert sessions on online. So definitely digital is going to take a big leap, and how it is viewed today and how it will be viewed going forward will definitely change, because India on a digital platform, I think India was lacking much behind. So that has of course changed. Union meetings, of course, meeting people virtually. So we have had conference calls, video call, calls and all, but more of meeting people virtually will become the new norm, and it is going to stay even in the future. Operational efficiency, like Poornima pointed out, definitely is going to, take a lead, because when revenues are shrinking, cash flow is an issue. Of course, operational efficiency is the area where the organizations will focus on. And even when, in the CEO town hall, our CEO has very clearly mentioned that we will have to be more performance oriented. So that according to me has to be a more stringent focus. Close monitoring review mechanisms will come into picture. And I think all this will also help organizations mature in their journey of excellence or their goals.
Okay, thanks so much. Yes, Sugandha, over to you now. What do you think will stand out and will change forever?
Yeah, so specifically from a auto engineering sector, I think the trend of automation, which has been kind of going on, I think that's something which will get accelerated. That's clearly something which I see happening. The reason being the social distancing, not everything is going to be possible doing by, at the human level without placing people at some risk. So that is one thing. Second is, I think the capability of dealing with unstructured scenarios will become more and more important. So I think Poornima talked about talent management. I think that will become one of the competencies that we will start looking out as a necessary one at a managerial and a senior level. So that's something which will change. And a third thing, which I think so there I might be a bit contradictory to my other co-panelists, is that although efficiency and productivity is important, but I think at the leadership level, it is going to be as important to give importance to the health, safety, well-being of our employees. And that's what I'm calling is a greater trend towards responsible leadership. And I'm personally hoping that that trend actually continues to stay. So while we are focusing on the business survival, I hope, we don't forget that there is a social aspect of what we do, employee and a personal aspect of what we do, and we keep factoring it in while we prepare for our businesses to do well and while we look at the long-term future of our businesses.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think it's been great. I think we are done with our scheduled set of questions, but I will now take up the opportunity because we are very short of time in going. I have lots of questions, but I think I'm going to park my questions and take on the questions that I've been getting from the audience. Few questions I shall, which are related to some of the recent labor law announcements. I'm going to park it for today because the next webinar that we are planning to do will be completely dedicated towards discussing the different state-specific announcements that have been made. And I think we shall probably do more justice taking those up in that session. There are some questions which are very contentious in nature, and I do not want to put our esteemed panelists on the block trying to respond to some of those questions. I might myself take up some of those, but the ones which I think I could probably request the panel to take up some of them are quite interesting questions. Like there is one question which says, everyone talks about innovation, but why the organization lack in proper planning for any time for uncertainty, essentially. And I think people have been using this word VUCA. VUCA world is a common word, but still companies are not ready. And why? Mostly Indian companies are reactive rather than proactive. Do you think there should be a change in the management decisions? And interesting questions. If any one of you want to take it up, please go ahead.
Sure. So, in fact, I was just thinking the other day, when I read the topic of your webinar, it was resilience. And I was just thinking that maybe just, 3 to 6 months back, I was getting a lot of these seminars and webinars about agility, So, so I think what happens is that at management and at organizations level, we tend to think in a very deterministic fashion. When we prepare our budgets, business plans, etc., we think that whatever we lay down as X is what is going to happen, or everything can be kind of tackled by the so-called the planning scenario, planning, execution, kind of the PDCA cycle, etc. Whereas life doesn't work like that, and I think this COVID crisis is a big reminder for that. Basically, there are things which can happen which are totally unprecedented, which we have not even thought about in our worst nightmares. And what matters at that point in time is how you deal with it. Okay, so the VUCA, I see all these theories, they come and go, but if you go back to the basic fundamentals of management, which is, we are talking the times of Drucker and all, it is basically about dealing with multiple variables, trying to evolve a best kind of a scenario, and, and then trying to work with whatever you have, and trying to make the best of whatever you can possibly do. So what is more important here is to actually be able to garner all your capabilities, being able to think with a cool head, remaining positive, taking your team along, I think, is one of very important things. So like just an example, we talk about frontline workers. So at our organization level, the people who supported us during lockdown, who came to, take care of our machines or take care of our other business, we actually did recognize them. So I think these kind of messages is something which is going to now make the difference as far as management is concerned. Being out there, doing the positive things, staying with your team members, and ready to deal with whatever comes your way. So I think this is going to be very, very good.
Yeah,
sure.
Sorry. So quickly, I know we are running short of time. I just wanted to quickly add, like I know some of them, I mean, based on that, whatever question they had. See, again, it depends from industry to industry. Innovation, right? See, the culture in an organization is driven from the top. So I have somehow worked throughout with product development companies. Like, my previous organizations has been Cisco, Intuit, and prior to Rapido, 9 years at Tejas Networks. So for us, innovation is a part of life. Okay, and companies, especially like forward-looking companies like Cisco and Intuit, I mean, I was in touch with them during this period just to understand what they are doing. So flawless execution, I can say. I mean, it wasn't like, I know this pandemic nobody expected, but as soon as it hit, like, the way it was planned and executed and the measures were taken was really, I mean, really good. Even, I was like, we were sharing some best practices. So I wanted to say that, it depends from industry to industry, but in general, yes, it had, I mean, it was a shock to everyone, but how you handled it is like what matters. Yeah. And another thing I just wanted to, because I'm sorry, I thought I should not let this go. Your previous question and what might happen or permanently change, right? One of the things I would like to point out is cross-functional expertise. This will be gain more importance. For example, just for the benefit of our other listeners, let's say and this really happened. Like I have seen 2-3 recessions in my career. When I was at Tejas, so there was one recession which hit, and I was leading the HR, and there was this corporate communications person, who left the organization. Then we didn't hire anyone. So I was responsible for internal communications, except for that. Then even administration also something happened. Then I was overseeing the administration. So wearing multiple hats. So what I understand here also is, as we have lean structure, this cross-functional expertise that will gain momentum. Yeah. Just to contain the cost. Yeah.
Sure. Should I move on to the next question? Okay. Now, I think a question which has just come in, which I thought was which is quite interesting. Can the panelists, and it was also a question that I had in my mind, so thanks to whoever asked that question. Can the panelists put some light if there is an effort being put to standardize work from home policy? Is there a discussion to see a certain percentage of employees will work from home? And are there organizational changes been implemented towards this? I mean, how can a webinar today end without a work from home question? Yes, anyone.
I can take that, Ritu. I think most of the progressive organizations, multinationals, even all good Indian organizations slowly are moving into the direction of working from home. Also to club this question with the earlier one, most of the innovations have happened in this world because we did not have any other choice. And I think somewhere this pandemic is also going to push us in that particular direction. Because what we are realizing during this time, one is, even if you don't come to office, you can be equally productive, rather at times more productive. So while it would be to an extent industry specific also, but I think organizations are working, for an organization like mine, that policy has been there for ages, so that's one. Organizations will work because you don't have a choice. Otherwise, people will come to office, may fall sick, and in any case, your face-to-face meetings are going to go down. So I think that is also going to ensure that you have that work from home policy. What is also important, and one change which has to happen across industries, is a belief of leaders and people managers that work from home is possible. I think that's a bigger deterrent than not having a policy in place. In many organizations, people may still believe that if people work from home, they may not do the work the way it is required, because not everybody is from IT, ITS, and some of the other industries where work from home is more common. So I think that mindset shift will also happen in people, Ritu, where people will start believing that work from home is possible. In my organization, it has been there for last 10, 11 years. That organization has been there in the country. But if you ask me how many times I have worked from home, I have worked 6 days in last 11 years. You know why? Because I cannot just be at home. So the problem is with me. My team does it work from home. They work from home. Am I happy with it? I'm very happy with it. But this lockdown has taught me that even I am. So I think that change when you deal with people, you will have lesser number of people. The next 6 months, while people will lose jobs, the cycle will start back again when there will be dearth of talent. Okay? So these innovative policies, I think organizations are working on it, and maybe out of choice, out of compulsion, out of belief because of pandemic. But you will see a lot of organizations moving in the direction of work from home.
Cool. I think there are a lot of questions, and given the paucity of time, some of those questions I'll try and summarize with some of my closing comments. And thank you for all your questions. I think all your questions are very pertinent and valid, but unfortunately, we are on the clock when it comes to the time. I think there have been several questions that have been raised in the group about all the conversations that are going around about possible wage cuts, conversations on possible job cuts, conversations about what do you do on like if you are rendered unemployed, how does one tackle it, what is the need of the hour, so on and so forth. I think it's very important for all of us to understand that what's happening is quite challenging, quite upsetting, quite tragic in many ways. However, the reality is that capital doesn't fund salaries, customers does. And I think corporate India have already paid 2 months of down payment from their side towards fighting coronavirus by ensuring that wages remain unaffected in spite of clocking in almost negligible or zero revenues. And that cannot be sustained. I don't think no company, trust me, I mean, irrespective of size and brand, can sustain this. And we will all witness all of the above. We will witness that there would be jobs which will be lost because there is practically, there are many job roles are now left redundant. And if you were to look at some of the government advisories and commentaries on how you should resume work back in your premises, you cannot have more than 1/3 of your workforce. You cannot have, maybe after the lockdown, maybe half the workforce cannot be present at single time in a particular. So this obviously will have impact because there is nothing one can do about it. I don't think it was ever an intent, but it is the way it is. Things like wage cuts, again, I mean, some organization might choose wage cut as a better option than job cuts. And so hence different kinds of patterns will emerge based on need, based on how organizations see their recovery panning out. Again, like, we should always remind ourselves, without employers, there are no employees. And if employers do not survive, then there is nothing much in it for employees. So at the moment, survival is growth. And that's what most businesses are focused on. Where are the jobs? There have been questions on where the jobs are. I think from our understanding as TeamLease, we see that, of course, the e-grocer, delivery segments, essential goods segments, healthcare, pharma, these places will continue to operate and function. There is going to be spike, and we are already seeing spike in demand for doctors and nurses and paramedics. So those definitely are there. And I think once non-essential goods sectors delivery is made possible through e-commerce will also start hiring. Of course, there are some sectors which are in complete shutdown mode. So I think at some point you will see that, yes, there will be some demand which will be kicking in. There will be supply suddenly available or in excess of the demand. People will also have to make choices in taking up jobs which are not an absolute fit either to their skill set or to their aspirations, but that's how you will have to tide through the short run. I completely agree with views of the panelists that two things which will be extremely important for anyone who is in the job market. fungibility in skills and flexibility. These are two very important concepts, and I think that's what you have to rely on. You cannot be stuck anymore to how the world was before. And I think overall, I think organization structures are likely to undergo immense change. We are used to a structure where there are these large number of permanent employees in workforces and some maybe outsourced employees. You will see that concentric circles emerging as part of the organization structure, where there will be this small dot of permanent employees surrounded by this circle of flexible temp workers, and there will be another circle around that of apprentices, and then the outer layer of gig workers and freelancers. It's inevitable. Compensation structures are likely to get more variabilized in nature than what we see. We have to be prepared for it. This is how the world will emerge. And there were questions about how organizing management decisions around managing crisis, right? Why is it that we're talking about the VUCA world? This is how you will now deal with any future crisis. If org structures transform, the way we view compensations and pays and rewards change is what will make us resilient towards the future. There are questions on labor laws, which I'm going to take in the next webinar. So please stay tuned till that time and be patient. And I'm hoping I'll get more clarity on many of these laws that are supposed to have suggestions that have come from the states. So thank you so much for being such a brilliant panel and for taking time out. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did in terms of learning the insights. And thanks so much to each and every one of you from the audience. We had a record audience. At peak, we touched almost about 170 participants, which is great. Maybe the quality of speakers are the reason that we got as many people to attend at one shot. So thank you again, and let's stay in touch and let's keep the conversations going.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.